You're listening to Rabbi Aryeh Wolbe of Torch in Houston, Texas. This is the Ask Away series on the Everyday Judaism podcast. To have your questions answered on future episodes, please email askaway@torchweb.org. Now, ask away.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Ask Away number 22, the highlight. It's become the highlight of our week. Thank you. We have a full room here. We're so excited to learn together here at the Torch Center. I do have from one of our listeners, our dedicated listeners, Benjamin, I have 18 questions. I'm really excited about this, so we're going to go through them as well. Some of them are similar questions, or they can be answered together. So we are going to hopefully address those as well. But someone is so impatient. No, you're very patient, but so excited to ask us questions. So Bruce, go ahead, please.
I don't understand why the spleen doesn't have to be cut open like the liver, since the purpose of the spleen is to store blood.
It's a very good question. I don't know the answer. Okay, let's just give a background. To those of you who are just tuning in right now, we previously discussed the laws of salting, which is siman number 36 in the abridged Shulchan Aruch, the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, and the halacha talks about different parts of the animal's body need to be salted or soaked or rinsed in different ways, and the spleen did not have that requirement like other blood-filled organs to be cut beforehand. I don't know the answer, probably because it gets extracted quicker, or the way it's constructed by Hashem is that it is easier for it to. It's not like the liver or the heart, which are, I guess, it pulls in there. I don't know exactly how the spleen works to give you an educated answer, but I think that the Torah's concern and the halacha's concern is that we don't consume blood. So the halacha wouldn't give us guidance that is wrong or flawed, right? So clearly the spleen is different than the rest of the organs and doesn't require that.
My second question is, you keep talking about roasting.
Only the liver.
Only the liver.
Only the liver needs to be roasted.
Okay, so you can boil the other parts.
Yeah, but only after that's salted,
salting
after
and rinsing,
it was soaked
etc.
and salted and rinsed.
Okay, very good. Those were my questions.
Okay,
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you so much.
You're not going to like me for this.
I'm going to love you for it.
You're not going to excommunicate me?
Never.
Okay.
You're assuming we already like you.
Go for it.
Before I ask my question, let me ask you a quick question. Regarding the history of the Jews, what would you say the golden age of the Jews were before I tell you my question?
The golden age was probably King David, King Solomon, when they had the temple. That's the ideal state of the Jewish people, is when we're in our homeland and we have our temple and we're able to serve God with an amazing level of clarity. That was probably the ideal state of the Jewish people.
Before I ask my question, would you agree that in the 1700s in Eastern Europe, during the pogroms, during the killings, during the Pale, that was not necessarily the golden age? Would
Correct.
you agree?
Yeah, I would agree that when we had
You would
pogroms,
agree
it was-
to that, right?
Yeah.
So, given that, why do some of these ultra-Orthodox Schlemiels dress with the white socks, with the shloimeh, with the long dress?
Talking about the Strimel, the long thing.
They look like jerks.
Okay.
Why do they dress like a dark period of our history?
That's a great question. So first is we need.
Did you hear what he said? It was a great question.
It was a great question.
Did you hear that, Ed?
I heard that.
Yeah, that's a great question. Okay, so let me address that. Okay, so first is like this. I want to address something different, and I'll get to the clothing question. Something that's been nagging at me a little bit recently is this right-wing antisemitism that has reared its head lately. Whether it be Candace Owens, whether it be Tucker Carlson, whether it be others who have started to have really really strong anti-Semitic sentiment coming from their programs, from their podcasts, and their speeches. And to me, it's like, what's going on over here? What's happening here? These are the people who have always been pro-Israel. Suddenly, they're turning against Israel. So I have something I want to share with you that has come to me over Shabbos that I think is correct, and I think it's the message that Hashem is trying to send us. I can't even begin to tell you how many people have told me over the past 8 to 10 months since our president has been elected last November that, wow, the golden age of America is here. This is going to be the best time for the Jews ever. The problem is whether or not that's true, the fact that people feel that way and people don't realize that not having our temple rebuilt in Jerusalem, not having the Jews in our homeland is a problem. We're in exile right now. As comfortable as we feel, we're in exile. We can forget that very easily when we just read the news. And Jews like to feel comfortable. They like to not feel oppression. Jews like to not feel that the nations of the world hate us. Jews like to forget that, and they like to get comfortable. So whether they're in New York or New Jersey or in Los Angeles or Miami, Florida, they like to be comfortable. Hashem doesn't like us comfortable. Hashem likes when we feel uncomfortable. Because when we're uncomfortable, we get closer to Hashem. When we're uncomfortable, that's when we suddenly realize we have to set our priorities straight. Now, just yesterday, a friend of mine walked over to my house, and he's got this big wild beard, more of a hippie type of beard. He's got a long ponytail too, and he lived in Austin for a while, and he just moved to Houston, and he says to me, "You see my beard?" He says, "For 15 years I haven't touched it." 15 years. I said, "Why not?" He said, "Because I love being in control of my life." He says, and this reminds me every day, there's one thing that I'm not controlling. You understand? It's something that I'm not in control of. Okay? I thought I was wondering why he needed to say it to me, but now with your great question, I know why. Ron, you hear this? Now I know why he said it to me. The clothing that we wear is not about history. We're not a people that cares too much about history. Although people give an enormous amount of money, Jewish money, sadly, going to museums. Go to every museum. There's Jewish names all over the place. I have no idea why. Why are we worried about the past? We have to worry about our future. We should be giving it to the schools for Jewish day schools. That's the Jewish future. We should be giving it to synagogues. That's the Jewish future, not the museums. Okay, I'm not telling people where to give their money. That's not the point. The point is, though, is that we need to identify as Jews. In the halacha that we studied in our classes here in the Everyday Judaism podcast, we discussed the importance, the halacha requires us to be different, to dress differently. We're not supposed to blend in. We're not supposed to. Not because we're supposed to be an eyesore. No. Because we are supposed to identify ourselves as being a chosen nation. A chosen nation is different. We dress different, we talk differently, we act differently, we speak differently. Everything that we do is different. Okay? Now, the Hasidic customs of how they dress goes back to their whether it be 100 years ago, 200 years ago, or 300 years ago, he said in the 1700s. Let me explain something, okay? There was a generation that was struggling very, very, very badly with their Judaism. They're talking about even before the Enlightenment, before the Reform movement began in the early 1800s. There were Jews who were struggling. And why were they struggling? They were struggling because they had the nations of the world on one side, hating them. They had, culture that was advancing in a way that they were uncomfortable with. They weren't super educated in worldly things. They were knowledgeable in some of them were knowledgeable in Torah, some of them were not. And the Baal Shem Tov, actually, part of his movement, starting the Hasidic movement, was to save those people. And he said, how do we do that? The first thing we need to do is get them inspired emotionally. Get them emotionally excited. get them to open up their hearts, and then we'll fill them up with Torah. Then we'll fill them up with the intellect of Torah. And it's funny because the Gaon of Vilna was the exact opposite. Give them the intellectual, and then that'll inspire everything else. Okay, but the Elu ve'elu, which is what the Talmud says, they're both the word of Hashem, and they're both fine. Whichever way, I don't care how someone connects to their Judaism, as long as they connect. That's the most important thing. Okay, so now they started, and that's where the shtreimel came from. It came from more of like the Eastern European, or even some in Russia. It was really cold, and they wanted to have something which looked majestic. So they had this shtreimel, and they had the longer coats, which were identifiable as being a Jewish garment. There are some who wear white socks, some who wear the black socks, some who wear long, some who wear short. Everyone has their different style, which is fine because everyone wants to be unique. Everyone wants to be unique, and everyone wants to be special. And that's fine. Judaism has plenty of place for every person to express themselves the way they want within the realm of halacha. It's very interesting that if you look at a pair of tzitzis, the top of it is all knotted. Right, so you have a knot, then you have the strings that circle, right? It's 7, 8, 11, 13, and in between there's 2 knots, each one of those circles. And then it's free-flowing strings. Our sages tell us that the top part, the 5 knots, that's the 5 books of the Torah. It's the 5 books of the Torah. That there's no negotiation. But beyond that, they all flow freely. The tzitzis flow freely, and everyone can express themselves in a unique way. And you have some Hasidic customs that go with not even black. Some have like a gold long jacket up to their knees. That's the Jerusalem Hasidim, the Yerushalmis. Then you have those who have black, and you have those who have it with a velvet collar, and then you have other. Everyone wants to feel special. And each dynasty, and you have hundreds of Hasidic dynasties, everyone has their own way of standing out and being unique, and that's fine, right? We can not like it, so we don't have to dress like that. But here's the amazing thing. We, within ourselves, as Jews, we have to be very careful about not judging other Jews in a negative eye. You know, there was an individual who was traveling on a train, and this guy walks over to him and says to him, "You filthy Jew, look at you." Well, you know, he sees him with his beard and he sees him with his yarmulke. See, he says to him, "Excuse me?" He says, "Jewish? Amish." He says, "Oh, Amish, we love the way you dress. We love the way you are. We have to realize that the nations of the world are always going to judge us. The nations of the world are always going to judge us. And the nations of the world may not enjoy the way we dress. They may not appreciate the way we are. But we internally have to recognize that we need to be tolerant of every person around us. One person's going to have a yarmulke like this, someone's going to have like that, and one's going to have like that, and one's going to have a baseball cap, and one's going to have, that yarmulke, and everyone's going to have their own thing. Beautiful. Beautiful. We're not a communist people. We are, unless you're the early kibbutzniks, right? But the truth is, we have freedom of expression in Judaism, and everyone has their own. What's very interesting is that even in the halachas that we learn here, in the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, that we learn, you'll find so many times, Yesh Omrim, there are some say like this, and there's some say like that. What do you mean? Just tell me. It should be black letter law. Tell me it's like this and only like this. No. There are different people have different customs of how they do. We all have the same principles. And by the way, those people that you don't really like the way they dress, they will take the shirt off their back to help you. And when you're stuck in the rain with your broken down car and you will call them to help you, they will leave their home, they will leave everything, they will drop everything to go help you. And they don't even know who you are. They will do anything in the world. You will never find. Hasidim comes from the word chesed. They will literally take the shirt off your back to help you. So I think we need to focus a lot on the greatness of our people. If you want, I'll just give you one more example. As you know, I'm a member of Hatzalah. So I carry this radio, and if there's a call, very few times that there were calls nearby here during a class, but when there was, We turn everything off, and I go because saving a life comes before everything else. But do you know that there are people, I'm not talking about myself, but there are people who will jump out of bed at 3 a.m. They had a long day. They have a wife and kids. They have a job that they need to be at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. And they'll jump out of bed because someone is in need of medical attention. They'll do everything. They'll stop everything. Those are the same. And you know what? It's all volunteer. They don't charge a dime, not to you, not to your insurance. They don't ask any questions. I've had so many people, I've come to their homes, they're like, how much do I need to pay for this? I'm like, it's zero. Well, what do you mean it's zero? I said, yeah, that's what we are. We take care of each other. We take care of our brothers and sisters. That's what it's about. So I appreciate the question. I do appreciate the question because I think it's important for us to recognize the greatness of our people, that we're all unique and different. We don't have to look the same. We don't have to be members of the same synagogue. We don't have to be members of the same affiliation. But every single Jew has the ability and should have the ability to be unique and express their closeness to Hashem in their unique way. Did I answer your question?
I respect what you're saying, but there's a Jewish tradition that I could disagree.
Good. Good. Please do. I'm happy that you do. Excellent. Thank you, Ron. Anybody else? Any other questions before I get to Benjamin's questions? 1 second. Let's pass the microphone there. Anna.
So we're talking about salting stuff, but...
we're not talking about being salty.
No,
right?
no.
Okay, yeah, okay.
No, but so you mentioned some parts that really don't sound very yummy. You're talking about salting the rectum. Really?
Right.
Does
Right.
somebody eat this?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. But you never know what someone might want to eat. And when people were very, very poor, they couldn't be. But the halacha still addresses that whether or not it is appetizing. I don't know. But the halacha still needs to provide us with guidance for every part of
Like
the
a
animal.
just in case.
Just yes.
Okay. So
regardless of its appetite
so
level.
the other thing is, can a brine be a substitute for salting?
I think it actually needs to be salt. Salt. It extracts the blood. Brine gives flavor. It puts in flavor. This has to extract the blood. So I don't believe that brine can serve. I think it specifically needs to be salt, and it needs to be a little bit of a more coarse salt when it is salted.
Okay, I have an awkward question.
Ask away.
Okay, so the Asher Yatzar, you say that for flatulence?
No, but you do say a person should say Asher Yatzar after they actually use the restroom, and even if someone has they need to go a little bit, doesn't make a difference. Any amount that we exercise the ability to function as a human being is the greatest gift in the world, and reciting that blessing is really a special thing. And if you read the words carefully, it's so powerful. Thanking Hashem for every part of our body that functions properly. It's a special gift.
But I do have another question.
Sure, go for it, Anna.
We've talked about this before, but giving body parts, do I understand correctly? We're okay to give our body parts for donation while we're alive, but once we're passed, it's no longer ours.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes. So I'm happy you brought that up because I didn't want to forget to bring it up before we were done, so that nobody can have any misunderstandings. While we're alive, if there is an organ that we can give, like a kidney, that doesn't take away our life, that is a mitzvah to give. Regarding postmortem, after a person passes away and they want to donate their organs, it's very complicated in halacha, whether or not a person can do that. After someone, definitely not to give an organ that will end one's life. And in most of these situations, even though they're considered to be, even by law, I believe they keep the organ alive, as harvest it as long as they can, and then once they clamp the blood supply, it is that they are you're done. you're done. Actually, the question that came up before about the anesthesiologist, why was there an anesthesiologist there? So one of the things the anesthesiologist told me, he showed me a medication, and he said to me, you see this medication? He said, this medication makes your blood into thinner than water. He says, you know that it's an amazing miracle. You know how many holes we have in our body? Pores, and the blood doesn't leave our body from the pores. It's an amazing miracle. That's why? Because the blood is thicker than the holes that we have in our body. And that's why it doesn't just ooze out. He said this makes this medication will make the blood so thin that it will literally come out of the pores. He says that's why they'll only use it on a donor in such a situation. So and it's, don't be shy. We're a friendly crowd. Go for it.
It's a silly question.
No such thing as silly.
The Mevushal wine.
Okay.
So, what is the difference between a Mevushal wine or a regular kosher wine? And it is like a certain time, like we need to drink just Mevushal, or it doesn't matter?
Okay, very good question. All the laws of mevushal and not mevushal wine, we're going to get to. We're going to learn it in the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. We're going to talk about this. But the general idea is that wine could be used for idolatry. In certain practices of idolatry, they would pour wine for their idols. So we are very cautious about this because we want the food and the drink that we consume to not be tainted with impurities, particularly not idolatry. So what happens if the wine was pasteurized, which is what we call mevushal? Mevushal means literally it was cooked. So then it decreases a little bit in its quality, and nobody would use that for their idolatry. So when you have a non-Jew is not allowed to touch a non-mevushal wine. A non-mevushal wine means it's just regular wine. So if a non-Jew touches that non-mevushal wine, once it's opened, obviously, then it becomes a Jew can't drink it. A Jew can't drink it. So you have to be very careful to have mevushal wine. A mevushal wine is not problematic. A non-Jew can touch it. Okay, you with me? No. All the wines that are kosher will have either mevushal or non-mevushal.
I have another wine, is say Mevushal. So I don't understand.
Okay. So let's go back. Let's go back a step.
It's very hard.
Okay.
Sorry.
Wine that we consume needs to be kosher. Okay, yes. It needs to be certified kosher. So you can find an OU, you can find an OK, you can find the star K, you can find all these different kosher symbols that identify that the wine is kosher. Additional to that, there will be a little word. Either it says mevushal, which means that it's pasteurized, and that wine can be touched by a non-Jew. And if it says non-mevushal, it shouldn't be touched by a non-Jew. But that's only after it's opened. Okay? Once it's opened, if they even touch the bottle, it's not good. Okay? So, for example, you go to the supermarket, you go to H-E-B, okay? You go to H-E-B and they have a great selection of wines. You go to the kosher butcher, you go to Ophir's, which is the Harova, and they have a very nice selection of wines. That's not being put onto the shelves. It's not being stocked by Jews per se, but it's fine because it's sealed. So even non-mevushal wine, we're not assuming that it was tampered with or played with because it's sealed, and that's why you have that seal on top of it, which locks it closed. And then when you open it, okay. Now, mevushal wine, if it's mevushal, it's fine. If anybody touches it, it's fine. If anybody, all right, deals with it.
Even if it's open.
Even if it's open, right? So when we had, for example, our torch galas, our torch dinners, we were only able to serve mevushal wines, right? Because it's being served by waiters that are non-Jewish. So they can handle mevushal wine. Non-mevushal, they cannot touch.
Okay, so if I invite someone, let's say, to my house, and they are non-Jews, and I have a non-mevushal wine, they cannot touch it.
Correct.
Because then I can drink.
That's correct. It's a good question. I would say that you probably can serve them non-mevushal wine. You can serve it to them, but you have to be careful that if they touch that bottle, you now can no longer use it, right? So It's something to be very, very careful about. And it's a delicate topic, right? Because, you have to know who's able to hear that and accept that and understand that maturely. We're very cautious about people's feelings too. So we have to make sure that we do it in a way that's not going to hurt, insult someone. It's like there are ways to do it that are proper, and there are ways to do it that can be very, very harsh.
Yes,
and you have to be
especially
careful
when
not
you
to do
are a
things in a
convert.
harsh way.
Like, for example, you have a non-Jewish family, and it's hard. But now I understand. I cannot share my non-mevushal wine with those people.
Right. So only mevushal. I recommend that when you're in a situation like that, the mevushal wines are usually cheaper also. You can find some really nice mevushal wines, by the way. Really, really nice mevushal wines.
Okay.
But again, because it goes through that boiling process, it lowers the quality a little bit. But today, the Israeli wines, a lot of them are non-mevushal because they want to maintain the quality of the wine. And you just have to be careful when you buy them to make sure that you know what's mevushal, what's not. And when you go to people's homes, and if you bring someone a bottle of wine, you have to make sure you just be careful about what you're buying them. Also, there's another. We can get into this. We're going to get into this later in the halacha.
Because I went to someone's house for Shabbos lunch, and then she told me, we just drink mevushal just to be careful.
That's
and
right.
I was like, okay, what does
this mean?
Yeah,
right,
so
right, okay.
I kind of understand a little bit, but not quite. So I say, I'm going to ask you.
Okay, very good. I hope you understand now.
Yes, now I understand perfectly. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for asking that question. It's not a silly question at all. It's an excellent question.
Sorry.
Okay. All right.
My next question is about kosher beracha, the Birkat Hamazon.
Yeah.
Cup. That only it's for Shabbos lunch or only just for Shabbos night? And if I understand, it's just for men's, right? Or women's too?
Well, okay. So here's the thing. Kosher bracha is the cup that is filled with wine for the recitation of the Birkat Hamazon, the grace after meals. That's done if you have 3 or more men. Right. Now, women can make their own zimun together. So if you have 3 women sitting and having lunch, they can make their own Rabotai Nevarech, like the men do. And they can also use a wine. There's no reason they can't do it on a glass of wine as well, on the kos shel bracha, on that cup of wine. Just to give you an understanding here, what we're talking about, there is not everyone does this, by the way. Not everyone does it. It goes by custom usually. There's some people have the custom of reciting the grace after meals with a full cup of wine. That means the person leading the grace after meals has a cup of wine which they hold till they finish the 4th blessing. Not everyone has that custom. I know that in my family, it's not our custom that we do that. But if you do, it's for all the meals. It's not only for one meal. It's for all the meals, Friday night, Shabbos day, and Suda Shlishit for the 3rd meal. Now, there are some, because you're not supposed to drink.
So for the last Seudah too?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, for the third meal as well. Now, there are people who mistakenly, after the 3rd meal, don't drink the wine because the halacha says that after the 3rd meal, you're not supposed to eat till after Havdalah. So by drinking the wine, and some people save the wine, they'll save that full glass of wine for the Havdalah. They'll just add a little bit of wine, it'll overflow, and then they have their Havdalah. So let me explain. If you have a cup filled with wine for the grace after meals on the Friday night meal and the Shabbos morning meal, then for the 3rd meal you have to drink it as well, because it's part of your meal. If you don't for the others, for example, in synagogue, sometimes in synagogue, most synagogues don't have a meal Friday night, they don't have a meal Shabbos day, they do have a meal for the 3rd meal of Shabbos. In that case, because they don't drink the wine after the first 2 meals, because they don't have the meal there, so then they don't need to drink it after the 3rd, and they can save it for Havdalah. Okay? But yes, generally speaking, if someone's custom is to, it'll be for all meals, not during the weekday meals generally, unless it's a festive meal.
Sorry,
yes, next question, go.
So can I use the same cup like the men use, or
Why not? Why not?
But in the same table?
Why not?
For example, let's say we're eating right now and it's more than 3 men's.
Huh?
So can I use the same cup,
Sure.
or it's just for men's?
No, the cup could be used by anybody. It's a cup. And you can rinse it out if you don't want to use someone else's cup, right? You rinse it out so that it's clean, and then use the cup. There's no reason not to. Okay. It's not contaminated.
Sorry,
Okay?
I have another question.
Yeah, go for it.
So at home I have mugs, glass, just to use it for
Coffee.
yes and everything. It's easier for me.
Good.
But I have a question. If, for example, I eat meat and I want to drink tea, and I just have dairy cups, can I use the same cup even if I eat?
So
I don't have it right now. I don't have that problem. I just want to be clear because my mugs are glass.
Right. So glass.
Yeah, I
you
know,
can
but I
use.
just want to know if I'm at someone else's house, let's say, and
Right.
that person just have dairy mugs, and I drink, I eat meat. Can I use that mug or no?
Okay, you ate dinner that was meat.
Yes.
Okay, so you're now in the meat category, let's call, right?
Yes.
They serve you a drink in a mug, right?
Tea.
Okay. So what's the problem?
But those cups are dairy.
So
I'm no broken any rule
I don't believe that would be an issue. Why would that be an issue?
because it's dairy and I just eat meat.
But it's the glass.
No, not the glass.
Oh, so
like
it's
the ceramic.
Ceramic. Yes, I wouldn't use the ceramic.
That's what I'm saying.
But
like,
well, it depends. It really depends. Ceramic, I would not use. Because ceramic holds
Exactly.
the dairy consistency of it.
Yes.
Right. What? Right. So it's a question whether or not the glazed or not. So I would use a different one and avoid that challenge. You have plenty of paper cups today, right? And you have glass.
Yeah, but it's not. You're saying it's not my house.
I understand it's not your house, right? If you can avoid it, that would be
It's better.
preferable. Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Okay.
Another question.
Yes, go for it.
So when I light the Shabbos candles, I'm allowed to ask for personal things or not? It's just to be thankful.
Okay, so yes, you can ask for personal things. It's a very powerful time to ask, and it's particularly because you're lighting candles before Shabbos. Even though that's the onset of Shabbos for you, it's usually 18 minutes before Shabbos. I think one of the reasons for it, the reason why it's 18 minutes before Shabbos, is so that you can still include your personal prayers.
Okay.
Because typically on Shabbos you don't include personal
Exactly.
prayers. But because it's such a powerful time, with the onset of Shabbos, we ask for our children to be righteous. We ask for our lives to be filled with blessing. We ask for many amazing things in that prayer. I think there's no reason we can't include a personal prayer in there beyond the text that we read from the prayers that our sages prepared, to add in a special request. I think it's very special.
So, sorry.
Don't be sorry.
So, normally I separate in my dishwasher. I put all meat together, and then I wait and I put all the dairy together. But can I
in
do
the same
it?
dishwasher?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm breaking any rule over there?
It could be problematic. The dishwashers.
I don't put it together.
I understand. Dishwashers might not, depending on what type of dishwasher, you might need a separate dishwasher for the dairy versus the meat.
Okay.
Okay. We'll talk about it after. I'll ask you for the specifics of it because it's not so simple.
So now I feel super bad.
Don't feel super bad. Don't feel super bad. We're all in a growth process here. We're all in a growth process. There are many things, I'll tell you. I sit every Shabbos and I look up halacha for different things that come up for me. And I grew up in a Shomer Shabbos home. There are things that I'm like, I can't believe I did that wrong my entire life. It's fine, okay? But that's the reality. We're all here not to be perfect, but to strive for perfection and to try to do everything we can to, right? Sometimes we make mistakes. It's fine. That's part of our growth. And there's some things that I might say here on this episode that people are going to say to me, what's wrong with you? How can you say that? And I'll have to correct myself. I don't know everything. I try to know everything. I try to learn as much as possible and to grow constantly. Don't be ashamed of growing. Don't be ashamed. All right? You're doing a great job.
What is your advice? So just do it by hand, dairy, or?
I would say whichever one has more volume, make it dedicated to that.
Okay.
And then the other one, just do by hand. Yeah.
All right.
I grew up in my home. Growing up, we had only one dishwasher. It was a meat dishwasher, and everything else needed to be done by hand. Yeah.
Do dairy by hand.
Excellent questions. Thank you.
This issue of not asking for things on Shabbos, isn't Sim Shalom asking for things?
Yeah, we're talking about the personal things. We're talking personal.
I find it real personal. I want Chaim v'chesed rachamim all day
Right,
long.
but
I
that's
could not
general.
live without
That's general things. That's general things. We're asking for mercy. We're asking for all of Hashem's attributes to play a role in our lives. Yes, but then we're asking for specific things. Specific, Hashem, can you please heal me? Hashem, can you please get me a job? These are personal things that we don't request personal things on Shabbos. Shabbos transcends everything. Like the way we, I think, visualize Shabbos is Shabbos. We're on the top floor with the king. Like we don't need to. You're there. You have the highest level of closeness. Your neshama's on such a high level on Shabbos that the requests are not necessary. We're just at a higher level of closeness with Hashem.
With all my health issues, on Shabbos I can't ask God to heal me? Is that what you're telling me?
I actually think that you can add it in the first three prayers. We say Somech Noflim Virofei Cholim. Oh, in there you can have in mind for all of my Hashem. You're the healer of all sickness. I'm included in that, and have that in mind. That we can. I think that I was thinking about that because I was wondering the same question. Maybe that's why our sages kept that part in our prayer on Shabbos as well, so that we can have in mind. Again, we don't verbalize it outright, but we can have in mind, Hashem, you got a guy here who needs healing. I know a person or two who can use healing. You're the Rofei Cholim. You're the one who heals all sick. Okay?
Thank you.
And I forget the word. There's a word when you kind of leave an order, for example, if you go to hospice and you leave an order for you not to be fed, or
DNR? Do not resuscitate?
Yeah, do not resuscitate. That was what I was thinking of. So, how do you feel Hashem feels about DNR saying, "Don't feed me, let me pass away"?
Okay, so this is a good question. Right. So it's a very good question. I know many people who had DNRs signed before they passed away, and the reason halachically and why the family would do that is because they were in more pain being alive. They were in such excruciating pain. Prolonging that pain is not our desire either. So if someone is on their way out on their way to the next world, we don't want to do. It means there are ways that medically you can prolong their lives, but do you want to do that when they're suffering at such a level? And that's why a rabbinic question needs to be asked. And I remember for my wife's grandmother, I remember that she had a DNR, but it was only after they consulted with the rabbis. They were told what her condition was. They were told, everything was explained both by the medical team and by the family. And it was the decision that a DNR should be signed because she was in such excruciating pain. You don't want to prolong that. Okay, so it's a very good question. Yeah, it's very important for us to have that sensitivity to realize that there's a time to live and there's a time to move on. And we obviously want to be in this world to fulfill Hashem, the will of Hashem, as long as we can. And hopefully we should all live happy and healthy, successful lives, fulfilling the will of Hashem. Bis 120, we say in Yiddish, till 120, right? Like our master, our teacher, Moshe Rabbeinu, lived to 120. We don't live longer than the master, which is why that became the age of. Okay, great question, David. Any other questions?
Several years ago, I was in Israel and I was having dinner with an Hasidic family, and I gave you a call to find out what kind of wine I needed to buy for them, and you told me to get a Mevushal wine. Why Mevushal and not just kosher?
Well, mevushal is within the realm of kosher. Yeah. Then you have to break it down. It's kosher, great. Yeah. Now it's either mevushal, which is pasteurized or cooked, and non-mevushal. The reason you get mevushal is because sometimes people will have sensitivities, and people will not know. I don't know who. That's always being on the safer side, getting a mevushal wine. So there's reason for that. Now, there's still a lot more to talk about. We're going to get to those halachas. We're going to get to those halachas in our study, in our further in our study. We're going to talk about the wine issues more. But that's always safer to do that. Okay.
One more question. Kind of remember, there's a part of the hind quarter that you're not supposed to eat.
Correct. The gid hanasheh.
Right. Since you're not supposed to eat it, I assume that does not have to be salted.
Correct. Well, it needs to be removed completely. But I don't really know. It's a good question. I'll have to inquire. I have a friend of mine in Dallas who is a shochet, and I can ask him. I'll call him and I'll ask him what needs to be done and how it needs to be done, how it needs to be dealt with. Yes. What is it called? The sciatic nerve, right? The back over there, the T-bone needs to be. It cannot be eaten by us. The Torah prohibits us from eating that. All right. So now, my dear friends, I wanna thank our online listeners for joining us. And one of our participants sent me 18, not 800, 18 questions. 18, yeah. So we're going to go through them. I want to thank Benjamin. Thank you, Benjamin from New York, who shared the following questions. So tefillin must be kosher? Yes. Tefillin must be kosher. What does that mean? What is tefillin? Tefillin are the phylacteries which a Jewish man should wear every single day. Every single weekday, not Shabbos, not Yom Tov, not holiday, a man should wear tefillin. Anybody here who does not have a pair of tefillin, please see me. And if you're interested in having a pair of tefillin, I will happily help you with that, and we can learn together how to put tefillin on. Tefillin need to be kosher. What does it mean to be kosher? It means that it's made by a God-fearing person, a God-fearing Jew who knows the laws of tefillin. Tefillin need to be made from the hide of a kosher animal, both the outside and the inside. The inside is the parchment on which 4 different portions of the Torah are written on it. Shema, V'hayim Shemoah, Kadesh li kol bechor, and the 4th one is V'haya ki Eviacha. These are 4 portions that need to be written in every pair of tefillin. Now, the head tefillin, you may notice, has 4 compartments. That's because each of those portions are written on a different parchment. On the hand tefillin, it's written on 1 parchment. It's very, very small, and you have to be very careful about it. I'm neurotic about my tefillin. I really am I'm horrified of the idea of, God forbid, one day wearing a pair of tefillin that are not kosher. Heaven forbid. Like I told my wife, if God forbid, if I'm ever incapacitated, I'm in the hospital, I said, I don't care what the story is, make sure they put on tefillin on me every single day. I'm like horrified of the idea of not wearing tefillin. Okay, now I don't know if halachically that would be permissible if someone's, God forbid, in a coma, where they don't. But I don't want to be in a situation where, God forbid, a day passes without me wearing tefillin. It's a great question. It's a great question whether or not women can wear tefillin. It's for a different topic. I'm not going to be able to get through Benjamin's 18 questions if I address that now. Rashi's daughters did wear tefillin, and I know that there are some women today who do. It's not a custom. It's not popular for women to be wearing tefillin today. I'll explain it even more. It doesn't really do what it needs to do for a woman. Okay, it doesn't check the boxes. What I mean is that a man needs certain things to connect him with the Almighty. A woman has a totally different voltage, and that voltage doesn't need the same things, right? We like to think in our world of modernity that everything is egalitarian and everything is equal. It's not equal, it's different. Apples and oranges are different. They're very, very different. They're both fruit. They're different. We're both human beings, male and female, but we're different. We all need different things to connect us. Men need our antennas. We need our antennas to be refined. How do we do that? That's with our tefillin. And tefillin are very, very powerful. Lemon cannot be used for the mitzvah of lulav. That's question part 2. Yes, a lemon cannot. It's a special citrus that is used for an esrog. So, Benjamin, that's a great question. Now, Benjamin is asking this after we discussed the Ask Away 18, where we talked about the mikvah, we talked about other mitzvahs, we talked about bread. So he's asking a few questions here about mikvah. So we'll do them quickly. Question number 2, how can a swimming pool be used to fulfill the mitzvah of mikvah, given these standards for ritual items? Okay, so here's the quick thing. What makes a mikvah kosher? What makes a mikvah kosher is it being filled with 40 sa'ah of rainwater. So if your swimming pool is filled with rainwater, water that was not in a vessel, okay, it means to be pure rainwater, not in a vessel. So you can't take faucet water and say, well, it rained into these pipes. No, once it's in a pipe already, it's not considered pure rainwater. So if, technically speaking, Benjamin, if I emptied out my swimming pool, which I plan to do one day, because I need to recoat the plaster in the pool. So at that point, before I refill the pool with water, I'm going to wait for it to rain 40 sa'ah. So that way, after the 40 sa'ah are in the pool, and there's more laws about mikvah than we're going to detail here, but after the 40 sa'ah are in there, it's a biblically valid mikvah. Now, it's a biblically valid. What does it mean biblically? That means that it can be used for a woman then. A woman who has a biblical obligation to a mikvah can use that pool. Okay. Now, would I recommend it? Not necessarily. You can go to a proper mikvah, right? There's designated places like in multiple synagogues here in Houston that have a special mikvah area for women to use. Now, what's about men? And why are men, and this is one of the questions that he says later on about, okay, so well, you know what, we'll go in order and I'm not going to skip around, so that way I don't miss any of the questions. Okay, question number 3, 4. So a swimming pool can be used for a mikvah as long as the first 40 sa'ah of water was rainwater, pure rainwater falling from the heavens. Not that it went through a vessel, not that you collected pails of rainwater and poured it in, because once it's in a vessel, it becomes invalid for the use in the mikvah for the first 40 sa'ah. After that, you can add more water to the 40 sa'ah, and it's fine. If a swimming pool is permissible, could a bathtub or shower suffice? Again, for a woman, no. For a man, there's something called a tisha kavim. Tisha kavim is 9 kavim of water that if a person goes into a shower, this is, by the way, what's used for a tahara, for a deceased. After someone's deceased, we put them, we cleanse the body, and it needs to be with a quantity of water of tisha kavim, 9 kavim of water that, with one steady flow. So in a shower, technically speaking, you fulfill that, and a man can fulfill his mikvah. Now, we're going to get into this because he's going to ask this question soon of why do men have a rabbinic, meaning the rabbinic law of men going to the mikvah before holidays, for example, before Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, there's a rabbinic law that men should go to the mikvah. It's not a biblical obligation, and it doesn't have to be the same type of mikvah that a woman would use, which is a biblical obligation. Okay, women the Torah requires a woman to go to the mikvah. The Torah does not require a man to ever go to the mikvah, unless he's a Kohen before the service in the temple, and someone who got defiled because of certain things, like a tamei mace, someone who came into physical contact with a corpse, right? So there are specific scenarios where a man is obligated to go to a kosher mikvah, but ordinarily, a man does not have a biblical obligation to go into a mikvah. Why not ignore the minimum water volume requirement too if you can go into a bathtub? So then why do we need to have? So if we're using a mikvah as a ritual bath to purify us from any impurities, we want it to be done properly. For a man, it's not a biblical obligation. There's no place in the Torah where it says that a man on a regular basis needs to go. You can fulfill that with your shower. You can fill that with a big bathtub as well. Okay. Now, we recommended the amazing book of Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan, Waters of Eden. So he says, he brings in question number 5, Waters of Eden includes the blessing for the kela mikvah, for utensils, which we're going to talk about in the upcoming episodes, of dipping in a mikvah. So when you buy new dishes, you dip them in the mikvah before you use them. Make sure that the labels, the tags are off, right? Make sure that the stickers are taken off, and you dip the utensils in the mikvah. There's a special blessing, al tevilas kelim, that is recited. But women as well, when a woman goes to the mikvah, there's a blessing that's recited as well. For men, again, there's no obligation for a man to go, no biblical obligation for a man to go, and therefore there's no blessing that a man recites. Okay, so there's no obligation for a man to go to the mikvah, therefore there's no blessing. There is an obligation for a woman, there is an obligation for utensils, and therefore there is a special blessing for that. What is the blessing? Here in the siddur we'll have the al tevilas kelim. I know for sure. For the woman, it's al hatvila, I believe it is. Baruch atah Hashem, Elokeinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu mitzvos v'tzivanu al hatvila, that they're going into the mikvah. Is a shehachiyanu appropriate? I don't think so. I don't think shehachiyanu is appropriate mitzvah blessing to be recited upon going to the mikvah. If one is really, really, really excited about the mitzvah of going to the mikvah, perhaps they do. I don't know regarding, I wanted to look this up before class today regarding conversion, if someone is going to the mikvah, if there is a special blessing. I don't recall. I was at one conversion that they were at the dipping into the mikvah, and I don't recall whether or not they recited the blessing. That's the only time a man would be obligated for conversion. Then a mikvah is required. I don't recall that a blessing was recited, but I may be wrong, so I'm sorry. If no bracha is said, is this similar to counting the Omer without a bracha if a day is missed? It's a very good question. I don't think it's recited shehachiyanu. This is regarding going to the mikvah. It's a great question, Benjamin. Can it still be considered a mitzvah? Yes. So anything that we do, what is a mitzvah? We loosely translate it as commandment, but a mitzvah, no, it's even more than a good deed. A mitzvah is something that brings us closer to Hashem. Hashem prescribes in His Torah 248 performative mitzvahs that bring us closer to Hashem. There are many, many, many breakdowns of those 248 commandments. They go into many, many details, but the 365 prohibitions that we have in the Torah as well are tools to get us closer to Hashem and not build barriers between us and the Almighty. So is it considered a mitzvah? Yes, if you're doing this to become closer to Hashem, definitely it's a mitzvah, but I don't believe that a blessing is necessary to be recited. Okay, my wife is currently traveling and is occupied assisting her mother. So I couldn't ask her this. Is the bracha for immersion displayed in the women's mikvah? It should be. Most mikvahs will have a sign. I've even seen it on touring different mikvahs that they had it like engraved in the stone in the wall, the blessing. For men and women converting to Judaism, which bracha is recited? I don't know what bracha is recited. Again, I said this earlier. I don't know what bracha. I have to look into it and get back to you. So great question, Benjamin. We're up to question number 12, so we're almost done. Do they include a bracha for conversion, immersion, or shehachiyanu? I don't know. Again, I'll get back to you on that. Are the brachot the same for both genders? Most likely, but with the proper male-female gender in the blessing. Yes. For a male convert, is a kosher mikvah required? Yes. Or would a swimming pool be sufficient? No. Yes, for a male convert, it needs to be a kosher mikvah and a swimming pool, unless it's a kosher mikvah swimming pool, which is very rare. I know people who did a lot of work to ensure that their swimming pool was a kosher mikvah. It could be used for women, it could be used for men, it could be used for conversions, etc., etc. But again, that you need to make sure that the laws of mikvah are very, very specific, and you need to make sure that someone who really, really, really knows what they're doing, not me, someone who really, really knows what they're doing is overseeing it and ensuring that the mikvah, that the swimming pool is indeed a kosher mikvah. Can a non-Jew, man or woman, fulfill the mitzvah of mikvah, like the performance of kibbut avim, honoring your father and mother? A non-Jew can perform the mitzvah of honoring their father and mother. Can they also perform the mitzvah of the mikvah? I don't see why not. Why not? They're not obligated to it. A person can do whatever they want. A non-Jew who wants to dip themselves in a mikvah, they call it skinny dipping out there, all right? But it doesn't apply to them. It's a different voltage. Yes, it's fine. If a non-Jew goes into a mikvah, it doesn't violate the mikvah. It doesn't ruin the mikvah status. Definitely not. So I don't think that would be an issue. You mentioned a apostle rabbinic mikvah requirement for men. Could you share the source? So the source was in the halacha that we discussed in, I believe it was Siman 130 or 131 in the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, in the laws where we discussed the laws of Rosh Hashanah or the laws of Erev Yom Kippur, where over there it was mentioned. If possible, the reasoning behind the opinion that it may actually be obligatory. So there's no obligation for a man to use a mikvah, but because a mikvah is a place of purification, it's recommended by our sages when we're coming before Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur in a time of spiritual sensitivity, spiritual closeness to Hashem. We want to remove all barriers, particularly if there's a physical barrier for a sin that we may have done with our body, that we want to cleanse that, and it's particularly before Shana Yom Kippur. So that would be more of the reasoning behind it. But there's definitely no biblical obligation. There's no commandment in the Torah that requires a man to go to the mikvah at any period of time, except for those situations that we mentioned where someone was a tamei meis or something like that. Okay, if men's mikvahs is optional and not a obligation, shouldn't resources be better allocated to other community needs? Definitely. Yeah, there are priorities in a community. For example, making sure that there is a Torah scroll, making sure that there's a mikvah for women. There are things that are more important than having a men's mikvah. Definitely, why build and maintain men's mikvahs? Generally, when people do that in communities, for example, many of the Hasidic communities have a men's mikvah, which is, again, they take care of it and they ensure that people want to do that. That's great. But it shouldn't come at the expense of feeding poor people. Okay, if someone has extra money, they want to donate to that, that's great. He says, I don't want to push this into the weeds. This is question number 18 from Benjamin. Perhaps, on a side note, I've noticed English spelling of mikveh with an EH vary. Some people spell with an AH at the end. Some people spell it with a UH. Even though it isn't really presented this way in English print, the common pronunciation is mikvah, but it's mikveh as well. So that's a great question, Benjamin. I would love, if possible, I'll even turn on the microphone for everyone. If everyone could just give a round of applause for Benjamin for his wonderful question. There you go. Okay. All right, so thank you, Benjamin. I hope I addressed all of your questions. Anybody else? One final question? We'll take one more final question.
How many gallons are 40 shayah?
How many gallons are 40 shayah? That's a great question. Let me look that up. Give me a quick second here. In the beginning of all of the I don't have it right here. I don't know. I will. You can ask your AI. I know you like to ask your AI. But my dear friends, this concludes episode number 22 of the Ask Away series. My dear friends, this was such an honor, such a privilege. Gary, we didn't hear a question from you. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Pass it to. Here we go. Gary, our statesman is here. Here you go. Right here, right on the other side. Gary, go for it.
I'm sorry to prolong our wonderful learning session.
We love this.
613 commandments. 365 don't. 248 do.
Correct.
Is there significance with 248 and 613? 613.
365, you mean?
365.
Yeah.
Where did I go wrong?
No? You said 361.
Okay, 248. The sequence 248 is interesting. 2 times 4 is 8. And then 613, right?
Total.
Is 10. And then that translates to 1. So I was thinking, wait a minute, 1. Am I kind of going off into the weeds a little bit?
I like that. You never know. You might be a reincarnation of some Hasidic master from a previous life. Because they would. I'm sure there's some secret about that, and I like it. I like the way you're thinking. My dear friends, have a magnificent day. I want to welcome Alina into our class. Thank you so much for joining us. 1 second. There's a question here from the online. Let me see. Load it up. Okay, here we go. I believe it is impossible for us to keep Shabbos not being Jewish. We have slowly been trying to keep more and more mitzvot in an attempt to become closer to God and hope to convert one day. Are we going about this wrong? No, you're going about it actually correctly. You can keep the Shabbat except for doing one violation on Shabbat. So you can go, and actually my wife has a very, very good story of one of their participants at their house that would come. She was in the conversion process, and it was towards the end of Shabbat, and she forgot to violate the Shabbat because it says that a non-Jew is not allowed to observe the Shabbat. So she, in middle of the third meal, she jumped out of her seat. She gave a big shriek and she ran to the bathroom, turned the light on and off, and then she came back. So so you can observe everything except for that as a non-Jew. And I urge you to continue your process of growth and connection with Hashem. Okay, now continue. Should we convert and then progress? No. Do your process of growth. I would recommend, though, that you consider coming to be part of a community, because you cannot do this on an island. You really need part of the fabric of a Jewish life is being part of a community. And suburban Jewry did not do good for the Jewish people. That assimilated us, and we've gotten lost by that. Okay, friends of ours who are part of the Houston's community converted years ago and tried to keep Shabbos, wore tzitzis, hung mezuzahs, all prior to converting. I would recommend the same, but I would recommend before, if anybody's in the process of conversion or at least thinking about the process of conversion, I would recommend that you meet with the Bet Din in advance. You meet with the Jewish court my pleasure, Samuel. I would recommend that you meet with the Bet Din, which is the Jewish court for conversion, and you talk to them. You get into the process. You get accepted into the process. Have a sponsoring rabbi who will oversee, that you can ask questions to, that you can constantly badger with questions, and that's fine. I'm telling you, I get texts frequently from people sending me, different kosher symbols. Is this good? Is this not good? That's fine. That's normal. I want to share with you just one quick story. There was a woman. We used to have a program called Kosher Month. Part of the Kosher Month program, we had something called Kosher Eaters Anonymous. And, there's Overeaters Anonymous. We did Kosher Eaters Anonymous, and it was a support group for people who were in the process of learning about kosher. Now, I had a woman lead that support group. And it was an excellent idea in retrospect. Why? Because she was new. She wasn't new, but she didn't grow up kosher, and she became kosher later in her life. So she was able to share a perspective that I, in my entire life, wouldn't have had. And one of the questions that someone asked was like, what am I supposed to do when I have questions? She said, what do you mean, what are you supposed to do? You call the rabbi. He's like, I can't bother the rabbi. The rabbi's busy. He says, no, that's what the rabbi's there for. And she said, I have all the rabbis in Houston on my speed dial. And I go one to the next, to the next. He doesn't pick up. He's busy. I call the next one. And I call the next one, because it's important. You have to have a rabbi that you can ask questions to. As a rabbi, I'm telling you that this is a common thing, that people ask questions all the time. And that's the right thing to do. We need to ask questions because we don't always know what to do. I ask questions myself. I don't know, even though I'm a rabbi, there are times I need to ask another rabbi, what do I do in this case? I don't remember the law regarding this. And that's part of the process of growth. We're always in a state of growth as Jewish people. My dear friends, yes, go for it. Go for it. Go for it. Pull the microphone.
I understand that we're in a period of fasting on Mondays and Thursdays.
Monday, Thursday, Monday. That's correct.
Can you just elaborate a little bit on that?
Yes. Okay.
Dietary sort of.
Okay. Very good. Okay. So there's something called Bahab, Beis Hey Beis, which is Monday, Thursday, Monday. After a holiday of the two holidays, the two main festivals of Pesach and Sukkot, because family get-togethers, you're sitting in the sukkah and you're schmoozing, you're eating good food. You could have sinned by mocking other people, talking negatively about other people. You could have spoken lashon hara, slander, and therefore our sages instituted it's a custom. It's a custom. Many people do it. Many people don't do it. The truth is the halacha brings, I just was learning about it this Shabbos, that it's very uncommon that people do this, and they fast on the Monday, Thursday, and Monday of the next month, which is going to be tomorrow, Thursday, and next Monday, that people will fast. There are people who fast. They'll say special prayers for atonement for the past holiday, in case I said something wrong, in case I did something wrong. But in a general rule, we should always be in a state of atonement. We should always be in a state of asking forgiveness from the Almighty. And yes, the Bahab is very good. I'm impressed that you know about it. You start at sunrise till stars out. I don't know the laws. I was actually going to look into it because I was interested in doing it, because I already do intermittent fasting because of dieting. So I was thinking, man, what's the big deal? So I'll just cut out my coffee and my water if necessary. I believe that it's an actual fast if you accept upon yourself that fast. It's an actual fast, but I'm not sure the violation of the fast would be the same as others. I'll look into it and hopefully I'll get back to you about that as well. Okay? Yes? It's a great question. How do you reach the Houston Bet Din? I will talk to you after class and I will share with you the contact information for that. Carlos, you have a question. There you go. Please pass the microphone to Carlos. 77.6 gallons. Okay, that's the 40 okay, 77.6 gallons. Okay, that's not bad.
You can round it off to 80.
That's not too much. Yeah, it's about 80 gallons. What, my beard? Why didn't I cut it off? Okay, that's a great question. So, as you know, this is my October 7th beard, and this was for the hostages. And why do I still have it? The hostages were released. So first is not all the bodies were released yet. Hopefully they'll be released. But now my wife really likes it. So it's a big, so it's a problem. It's a problem. I don't know what to do, but we'll see. I've gotten good feedback about the beard. A lot of people like the beard. So I'll take your vote. My friends out there, you can take your vote. I'd love to hear from you. All right, 1 second. But I'm saying, if you already have a beard, just have the beard. It's like, Carlos, go for it. Final question here for this week.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I remember reading, we can't have blood, but can we have fish blood? Okay,
so fish blood be eaten. You know what? I don't know. I think it has to be rinsed. I don't know that it's salted. I don't know that fish is salted, but I think it has to be washed away. I think it's much easier for it to be cleaned in a fish than it is for a chicken. I don't know. I'll look into it. I'll get back to you right away. You have another question right there? Excellent, my dear friends. This has been awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ron. Have a great week, everybody. I'm just reading the comments here. Yes, tefillin is powerful. And again, it's just a reminder, anybody who does not have a pair of tefillin, that wants a pair of tefillin, I will happily help you with one. My dear friends, have an amazing week.
You've been listening to Rabbi Aryeh Wolbe on a podcast produced by Torch, the Torah Outreach Resource Center of Houston. Please help sponsor an episode so we can continue to produce more quality Jewish content for our listeners around the globe. Please visit torchweb.org to donate and partner with us on this incredible endeavor.